Hello everyone, my name is Chen Hewen. Today, our group will give this speech. Below are our team members: 陆成龙、郭胜男、黄丹妮、杨林霄、徐泽奇, and me. The topic of our presentation is implementation checklist. Checklist refers to planning for the future of a project and recording them in the list. What we want to talk about is to put the contents of this into action to make our lives more organized. Now, let Lu Chenglong talk about why we need to make an implementation checklist.
The introduction of different project software will cause ripples across the organization, and the end user wants to know why the change and how to use it. The person who created the checklist can gain insight into the details of the project through the data in the table. In this case, carrying out the project blindly will be very risky. In fact, carrying out the project blindly is almost impossible because a successful project always starts with careful planning. So by implementing the checklist, you can get many benefits. For example, clarify the overall plan, provide the implementation level, secure the budget framework. It can also change and check goals according to needs during project implementation, provide the clear display of results for the person in charge of each stage, provide strong evidence of progress for stakeholders, provide background for the interest monitor. So that's why we need a checklist. That's why we need an implementation checklist. You can easily to set goals at the beginning of the project and provide the project details for each class as the project progresses, and at the end, in the fastest and the most brief way, show the results.
So, how to make checklist? First, simplicity. A checklist is not an instruction. A bold item may be valuable, but people think it's unnecessary and waste of time to watch it. Making checklist doesn't need to list all the steps. That's what the instruction does. The role of checklist is to give the user a handy reminder. People always like simplicity. You better make one-dimensional or linear list of things in order. Second, you should be able to let yourself know that you can actually complete the items on your list. That's to say, measurable. Some things are easy to measure, like whether you have your keys with you when you leave the house. And some things are not, like whether you're happy. Trying to define the items that are not measurable and then make them measurable. In addition, the checklist needs to be improved. If you are doing something that's getting more complex, like software development, you might want to add some new and important items to your list at the right time, or delete something that is no longer important. Anyway, you don't have to start with perfect checklist, but you have to improve it over time.
Okay, the next is to start implementing the context of the checklist. How should the checklist be executed? Here, the 4W1H principle applies to the implementation of the checklist and helps the implementer to be more efficient. The 4W1H stands for why, where, when, what, and how. The number one is why. Being clear about why you are doing this means being clear about what you are doing it for. When you are implementing a checklist, you can only get the desired results if you are clear about your goal, and sometimes need to adjust the way you implement the checklist to your objectives. The number two is where. Knowing where you perform your tasks better is not the main factor that affects the outcome of a checklist, but it can indirectly help you to perform better. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes, so you can work better while you feel relaxed. This is the effect that the environment has on a person and will affect the results of what you do to a certain extent. In addition, if you have many places to choose from at the same time, it is even more important to choose the right place to you. The number three is when. When to do something is important, not only for the outcome of a task on the list, but also for the direction of the final result of the list. Also, the list is clear about when to do what. Your actual work and life situation may be different from the list, and the list will require you to adjust the timing of doing something at some point. When you are clear about what you should be doing and when, these changes will be very simple for you. The number four is what. It is also important to have a plan for what to do afterwards, because when you carry out a checklist, you may be ahead of schedule on a particular task. This will affect your mood and how you work. So, when you have a clear what, it makes your job easier. The number five is how. How you do it directly affects the outcome of what you do, and its importance is obvious. Generally, the checklist will not write the steps of a task in detail, but simply remind you of what you should do. So, when you have a clear idea of how you are going to do something, you have an overall picture of what you want to do and are able to deal with unexpected situations as they arise.
Checklist literally can understand from the name is used to examine a series of items because people's memory will have some limitation, be missing some matters which need to be aware of, but also because of people's experience and the level is limited. So people need the help of checklist. For example, before the physical examination, the nurse will give everyone a list, and every time you complete a project, you need your doctor to take it off. This checklist can help the people avoid forgetting some important examination. Also, when people plan a trip, people always make a checklist of all the things that they needed to use during the trip. And usually, before going out, we will check each item according to the checklist, such as visa booking, air ticket booking, hotel booking. And also, before going out, we will pick the things we need to take according to the checklist. Checklists also have very important price in similar work. Checklists can also apply to software testing. Firstly, checklists can save time for the testers because many effective methods do not require each tester to rediscover, and previous studies have made sufficient summaries and conduct a lot of validation. Secondly, through checklist inspection, omission can be effectively prevented.
In this video, you're gonna get the best ideas from the book The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, and then I'm gonna show you what are the best ways to actually implement all this knowledge into your life. It's an awesome book, and I think you're gonna love it. Let's go. Today, people can do amazing things that just a few decades ago were totally impossible. From building skyscrapers to carrying the internet in our pockets, predicting tornadoes and saving people from impossible and severe injuries, there seems to be no limit to what we can accomplish. Yet, experienced, well-trained and quite capable people make totally avoidable mistakes every single day, sometimes with fatal results. Why? As the author puts it, the level and complexity of our collective knowledge has exceeded the capacity of any individual to get everything right. So, how can we not only survive but thrive in this increasingly more complex world? The solution is rather simple: creating checklists. Clear and easy to follow checklists that a trained person can follow and quickly implement can save lives. And they do, every single day. Picture this: the average ICU patient requires 178 actions or procedures per day. 178. The possibility of making a fatal mistake is enormous. We have a greater than ever chance to save someone from a previously fatal sickness or injury, but we have an ever-increasing chance to harm them as well. This is why checklists are so crucial. They can prevent failure by addressing two main problems. First, our attention to detail and memory are not reliable and often fail. And second, we tend to skip steps even when we remember them. In other words, checklists can help lower the mistakes of the natural phenomenon called people being people. If you're a patient in the ICU, you would want things to be done from a clearly outlined, battle-tested checklist instead of from memory from a doctor or nurse who might be sleep-deprived, or had a flat tire on the way to work, has a sick kid at home, and hasn't had their coffee yet. Checklists protect against failures because they remind the person of the minimum steps required even in the most complex of tasks. Now that we've established how crucially important checklists are, let's talk about how do you actually create a good one. There are two major steps to start with. One is define a clear pause point or a break in the workflow at which the checklist is to be used. Two is to decide between a do-confirm and a read-do list. A do-confirm checklist is exactly as it sounds. Do first, confirm after. In other words, execute the given task or procedure, then pause to confirm that every step has been completed. The read-do is also exactly as it sounds. It calls for doing the task in a step-by-step manner, following the instructions of the checklist. And whichever way you go, here's how you make your checklist even more useful. First of all, try to keep it short, ideally 5 to 9 items and never more than a page. Also, keep the wording super simple and precise, and use language that is familiar to the person who the checklist is intended for. And finally, concentrate on the most important items that will be the most dangerous if they were missed. Once you have created a checklist comes the most important task of all, and that is testing it in the real world. Use it yourself or have another person battle test it and provide feedback. As with everything else in life, there is always a difference between theory and practice. So whether you're landing a plane, keeping a patient alive, or dealing with less superhero tasks like trying to get all the work done in one day, buying all your groceries, packing your kids for a trip, or executing a marketing plan to grow your business, checklists are a phenomenal tool to help ensure you stay on track and get the job done. Hey, welcome back. Now, let's talk about how to implement checklists in your own life. And the way I suggest you go about it is you take a few minutes and then you figure out what is the most important task in your personal or professional life that you're currently facing issues with. Or another way to think about it, what is the task that's currently causing you the biggest amount of grief? Because it could be a minuscule task, but it could be so preoccupying in your mind that you need to solve that first. So the most important one or the one that's causing you the biggest amount of trouble. And then take a few minutes, take an hour, take as much time as you need and create a checklist for it. And a checklist is nothing more than a system. You systemize the process of executing that task. If before you were doing a little bit of this and then a little bit of this and then you need to pause and be like, what do I need to do next? Now you know exactly what you need to do, you know the exact order, so it's a matter of execution. You no longer need to think about it, now you switch from thinking to executing. And it becomes much simpler because first of all you can expect the same exact result every single time, just like a recipe. If you use the same ingredients in the same order, in the same measurements, you know that the end result is going to be the same. So consistency, but on top of that, you don't need to think about it. You externalize it, you take it from your mind, from your brain, from occupying your mind all the time onto a checklist. You know it's going to get done, you know what the result is, and it frees up your mind in a way that you wouldn't think it was possible. So don't overcomplicate it. Create a checklist for the biggest, most important task in your life, or for the one that's causing the most grief. See how it works out. I promise you, you'll be blown away, and then you'll be doing checklists for as many tasks as you can. Don't overcomplicate it. Go ahead and do it. And if you want more videos such as this one, reviewing some of the best books in productivity and motivation and self-help, click on the subscribe button, join the family. There's 2 videos coming out every single week in which I break down the most important books, the most important ideas, and most of all I show you how do you implement. Because reading the book, that's important. Getting the information, that's important, but unless you actually implement it, nothing is going to change. So join the family, click on the subscribe button. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I hope you have an amazing day. Now go and create some checklists. In this video,
So as you can see, checklists not only can be used in professional work, but also can be used in our daily life. A work without a plan, it will be very risky. Use implementation checklist can give users a hard reminder. So next time, if you are facing a complex problem, you can make a list what's your important points for this problem, then just follow it step by step, take after you are finished each mission. Maybe it isn't 100% perfect way to solve your problem, but the checklist indeed can make you clarify your mission and increase your efficiency, because once you are interrupted at work, look at the list, you can continue immediately. You can know what you need to do in next step by the checklist. Okay, that is all for our presentation. It's about the implementation checklist. I hope you can learn how to do a checklist from this video. Thanks for watching. Thank you all.